What's up, everybody? We got Julia Mauk.
Mock. I dare you to mock me.
Mock, did you ever you make a mockery in this courtroom? There you go.
Before we get started, I gotta ask you, who's your favorite like TV judge?
Oh,
Nice.
now I'm gonna Judge Stone from Night Court.
Judge Stone Night Court, okay. Mine is Judge Mathis.
That's a good one.
Somebody he finally calls my anybody cracker. He can notice. He can see that on anybody.
That's Judge Harry Stone from Night Court. Yes, Night Court was really good. It was. Night Court was real good. So what, did Night Court come on after the Cosby Show? Was that the lineup? Because it was like a part of a nice lineup though. I remember it was like something in the Night Court.
Who's your favorite judge?
My favorite judge is
The conversation going crazy.
either Lynn Toller.
Lynn Toller.
I like her.
Yeah.
And then I also like Judge Joe Brown.
Judge Joe Brown.
I like Judge Joe Brown.
Judge
Man.
Joe Brown lately.
Well, Judge Joe Brown, now he's off the bench, but he got like he has a lot of what's the word that I want to say?
Traction.
It's like analytics. What is it when you
Opinionated.
No. When somebody critiques what other people are doing, like analysis, but that's not the word that I'm looking for. I'm looking for something else.
He relates to a lot of things in the media.
I'm blowing it. But Judge Joe Brown is all over podcasts right now, and he has a lot to say about a lot of stuff. So.
Absolutely.
I like it.
So before you became like aspiring to be a judge, let's talk about the early humble beginnings. So here on the Legendary People podcast, I like to follow the ordinance of our legends. Without further ado, where did you grow up?
So I grew up here in Dayton. I'm born and raised here. I grew up on West Hudson Avenue, over where Colonel White used to be.
Okay, what was that? That Five Oaks?
So I think I wasn't actually Five Oaks. I was just a little bit outside of Five Oaks. I think it was Red Hawk.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay. Salute.
But yeah, so I grew up there. I went to Holy Angels and then to Chaminade Julian and UD. And so I've been here my whole life. I went to school in Florida for about 2 years, and I came back to Dayton and finished at UD, finished law school there.
Hold on. We gotta rewind back.
I know, you gotta rewind back.
So what was it like growing up in that area? So like, were you on the street that had like a those barricades blocking the street?
The fences and stuff.
At all?
I don't. So early days, no. We had, so I could go all the way from Salem to Main Street without stopping. And then somewhere, either like late 80s, early 90s, there was at least one where West Hudson split and maybe towards Cherry.
Yeah, so like, what was your perspective at that age of seeing that? Like, what did you think when you saw that in your neighborhood? Did you see that and you felt like safer, or did it make you more fearful? Like, what did that make you feel growing up?
I don't know that I thought about it. I think for me, like, it didn't play a big role. One, because I think like I could still ride my bikes with my friends and get to where I needed to go. So I don't think I paid a lot of attention to it until I got older and kind of knew more the reasoning behind it.
And hindsight, how do you look at it? Like with your 2024 vision?
I don't know that it served the purpose that I think they thought it was going to serve. And so, I don't know. I don't think it was a great idea.
Yeah, because like I heard like allegedly, this is all alleged, right? I try to get nobody in trouble, but like people would steal cars and drive through the fence and like break it open for a couple, then come lock it back and stuff. It's why I didn't understand what was the purpose.
I remember when they first put those fences up, because I lived right on Harvard.
Okay.
And then my brothers, they lived on Fountain and on Delaware. So at first, like you said, no, not like in like 87, 88. I really didn't see that stuff, but like right around 90, they start putting those fences up, and I don't know. I mean, they started putting like the bumps in the street and all of that stuff, man. I thought that it was odd at the time, but we were kids though. We were only like maybe 14 or 15. I thought that they had probably some type of reasoning for doing it, but we definitely didn't like it though.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I mean, why did they put those?
I always
Okay,
assumed it had something to do with like either trying to. Like, I think I thought it had something to do with drugs, but I never understood what
Right.
it was. Like, people were like cutting between Salem and Maine, like
Right,
that quickly,
right.
but it didn't feel like you just went to a different street.
Right.
But and I do think, looking back now, it feels like between where my neighborhood was and like my street, and then on the other side of that fence, you could it felt like there was a significant difference in the accessibility that people had and just the like upkeep of those houses and the quality of the housing.
Right.
And so I think there was this unintended consequence of, you know, neighborhoods sort of starting to fall into disrepair.
Right. Right. Yeah. You almost put like a self-fulfilling prophecy on the neighborhood
Right.
to like kind of go down, because I mean, I didn't notice Five Oaks wasn't nearly as bad, if you want to say, then as it was now. Like, it was just a regular neighborhood. And if you look over there, I mean, they got
Beautiful houses.
nice houses. You know, they got nice trees over there. It's like really, like in a good way, like shady. You know what I mean? It's Five Oaks was
It was a
cool.
good neighborhood.
Yeah, it wasn't nothing wrong with it at all.
Yeah, so like, what was your experience like? So what are the things you're into at like a young age that like you were kind of into? When you
I
were
love sports. I played every single sport I could get into. So soccer was the main one that I played. But basketball.
I got to see you Alvaro 1v1 because I heard that he was like Pele back in the day.
Oh, I love soccer too.
All right.
I coached soccer for a while.
So,
Really?
yep.
Okay, I was a center forward.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm scoring.
I was a spectator.
We need those too.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
You went to Holy Angels.
I did.
Okay, so did back then Holy Angels went up to what grade?
All the way up to 8th grade.
All the way up to 8th
Yeah.
grade. Okay, yeah, my daughters went to Holy Angels too.
Nice.
Yep, they did. And did you like that?
You know, it was fine. I didn't know anything else different, and it worked. My parents both taught at UD, so like they dropped me off and go to work, and you know that's just where it was.
That's nice. So okay, so your parents were professors.
Yeah.
Really? Okay. Yeah. So West Hudson back, and this is what in the 80s.
Yeah.
So was it nice?
Yeah, I
Was
thought
it?
it was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I had a ton of friends, and we just would hang out. And
Right. Okay. So you played soccer all the way up into high school?
Yep.
All sports.
All
So I played in high school. I played basketball my freshman year, and then I just did soccer the rest of the time.
Oh, you get buckets too. Okay.
What high school did you go to?
Chaminade, Juliet.
You went to Chaminade, CJ? Okay. I just made shirts for CJ's senior night.
Wait a minute. So
Today.
the brother that went to both those schools?
Yeah, yeah. Because, like, Holy Angels is essentially like a feeder to CJ for the most part.
Yeah,
I mean, I
it's kinda
suppose-
split. Sometimes it's alter.
Yeah.
But it's a lot depending on where you live.
Right.
CJ or alter.
Definitely. So, yeah, my daughters went straight from
Nice.
Holy Angels right to CJ.
Okay. So like, what was your experience there? I mean, you had a ton of friends, but then like you're kind of living close to what we call the hood, kind of. Like, did you have any type of situation where like you saw crime? Like, what is your first like thought of crime? What did you first notice? Like that epiphany of like, wait a minute, that's illegal.
Well, and I don't even think it was like crime so much. I remember they found a dead body like
Oh.
around the corner in a house, and it was like a house I'd always seen growing up, and it was like not. And when it came out, we were all like, "Oh my gosh, what happened? Like, how did this happen?" I don't think I ever found out what was going on, but that I think that was, and I was probably in high school.
What was the addresses in that book? My lady.
No.
No, I was about to say it because this house over there kind of crazy. So, okay, so you're playing sports. What do you want to be at this point in your life when you graduate high school?
A marine scientist.
Marine scientist.
Right. Yeah. So a little different than where I ended up. Just that.
But how did you come into wanting to be a marine scientist?
I love science. Like everything about. So both my parents are English professors. I was like, that is not for me. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't. That's not exciting. And so math and science were the things that I loved, and science fairs, science projects. I was totally into that. And so I decided when I was getting ready to graduate, I found the school in Florida. I could major in marine geophysics, so like the physics of ocean floor movement and things like that. And I was just all about it. And I got to go to school in Florida, so it was like perfect.
So I gotta ask you something real quick, just for the people out there. How do you feel about flat earthers and stuff like that? I gotta ask you that just because I mean, like, you went to the field of studies on the stuff, and you would see somebody online that just would just refute scientific data. How do you feel about people that says that?
You know, it's wrong. No. For me, I feel like the evidence shows that doesn't add up.
Okay, for sure. You know what? You gotta believe her, y'all. She's smart like that, right?
So with a marine scientist, though, is that just the study of water, or is it the animals that live in the water?
So I wasn't so much into the biology of it. I was more interested in the rocks and the movement of the ocean floor and tectonic plates. And I really like that.
So what did you find out? Can you give us some, like?
So
some thoughts.
I don't know, because it was like 20 plus years ago, and
Right.
then I ended up transferring back to UD, and I switched my major to philosophy, and so.
Philosophy, yes, that's what I have a hood degree in.
What made
Philosophy.
What made you switch your degree from this marine to philosophy?
So, well, when I came back to UD, so there's not a whole lot of oceans here in Ohio. There's not a lot of study of that here. And so I tried geology for like a semester or two, and
aquifers.
Should have. Yeah, they're the biggest one. It just wasn't, it didn't feel like the right thing anymore. And I had taken, I don't remember what philosophy course it was, but I just loved it. I was like, I love thinking about things and trying to think through the problems and how do we get to the best answer.
Right.
And so I went and talked to the chair. I'm like, I'm really interested in this. I think this might be something for me. He said, all right, take another class. And I was hooked.
Who is your favorite philosopher?
Galileo.
I don't know. I feel like there's a couple. I think there was a genre. I really liked a medieval philosophy class that I took, and it had this study of religion and how we think about God or this higher being, and how you couldn't actually talk about it directly. You had to more talk about it in a negative. So say like, God is not tangible, or God is not, because of the kind of immensity of God, you couldn't directly refer to it. You had to talk about what it was not.
Absolutely. Like, you have to be careful not to offend God.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, like the questioning and the asking of, the wondering why things are the way that they are, even when you're trying to like ponder these things, you can't really take God out of the equation, or because fear of God is the beginning of knowledge. So it's almost like that fear right there. And this is something else that I asked. Okay, I got you. But this is something that I asked Lynn Cooper. She came on. We were talking about being obedient to God. And we were trying to figure out what is the strongest motivating factor for the obedience. Is it to not be punished for disobedience, or the reward for being obedient? And we were seeing what is the what motivating factor is stronger, the punishment or the reward?
Can I offer a third option?
Oh,
yes.
So I think for me, it's the being okay with where I stood and knowing that. So it's I'm not like, obviously I don't want to be punished, and the reward is appealing, but at the end of the day, knowing that I did the best that I could is, well, maybe it is reward. But yeah, like knowing that I did what I can look back on and be proud of, and I can look back on and feel like that is representative of me, and I stand by that now, however long after.
How much do you think that God plays a part in the courtroom?
I think
On a scale of 1 to 10.
10 being the most.
10 being the most.
I think it plays a role. I think the sense of doing justice is in some ways kind of God in the courtroom. So I think it does. I think aid or not for sure. Because there's, and you know, not God of a specific religion, but that like higher kind of moral
the most high.
compass.
Yeah.
I think 100% because like before you testify, you got to put your hand on the Bible, don't you?
Right? Yeah, so you got that.
And then
You definitely have to swear in it.
and then when you get sworn in, what are you sworn in on? Over a Bible?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like a. But that's crazy with the whole separation of church and state. But then we still use that practice. That's kind of a loophole that they done figured out that I ain't figured out yet. So all I'm gonna ask you before is, how did your parents react to you saying that I want to come back and then study this new thing of philosophy rather than what you've already started?
They were okay with it. I think both my parents have always been super supportive. So if this was like where I was at and what I was comfortable doing, that and it wasn't harming anybody else or harming me, they said, okay, if it's gonna work for you, it'll work for me.
Okay. So were there any things that kind of like during this process that you kind of use today in like your moral, your judgment, or what kind of led with the breadcrumbs for you ultimately choosing to be a like a prosecutor? Well, you know what I'm saying, like to be in the legal field.
Public defender.
Yeah, public defender. Excuse me, sorry. Strike that from the record. Strike that from the record. All right.
So I think for me, it's like the aspect of service. That's always been something that's been huge. From Holy Angels through Shauna, Julian, I think my first job was a volunteer gig in the gift shop at Grandview Hospital. And so just making sure that I'm giving back to the community, making sure that I'm pouring into the community, and that's always been something that's been really important to me. So public defender kind of aligned with that. It surprised me. I didn't know that that's where I was going to end up. Because law is not something that we have a history of in my family. Nobody else that I know of has been a lawyer. And so when I went to law school and I started practicing, I had an internship while I was still in law school and had an opportunity to work with the public defender's office and fell in love.
So I gotta pause you again. So this is like wow to anybody that's watching the parents be so supportive of all these changes. Now my son changed his mind one time, and I was like, listen, maybe take some time off for a little bit, get you a little job, but we keep it. So after the second change, going to the third one, what would your parents do that time? They still were supportive, like
I mean, so my dad, he will be very upset if I tell him this. He was born in the 30s, so he's super old. But
we all born in the 1900s.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
But he came up. He was born in Birmingham, Alabama. Moved up to Toledo when he was 12 or 13, and going to he was the first one to go to college in his family, and so he worked his way through undergrad. He worked then worked for a couple of years, then got a graduate degree, then worked some more, got a graduate degree, and so for him, I think when I was like, I think this is what I want to do, he said, okay, that's what you want to do, and you're willing to put the work in. As long as you're willing to do the work to get there, that's fine. You just have to be willing to show up and do what you need to do. So.
How was your parents was like really loving? Did you ever get in trouble? Like because
corporal punishment?
Yes, you did.
I did.
Corporal punishment?
No.
And so that's where I wanted to get to.
Here, take that point.
There's no scientific data that proves like whipping your children works in order to improve them. And we are seeing you're determined, you stuck with it, you had goals and dreams, you became a public defender.
Yes.
And to me, that's a success story.
Absolutely.
And it came without beatings. Yeah. Now, do you think that you ever did something that another kid did and they would have got a whooping for it?
I don't think so.
So you were pretty good.
I was a relatively okay kid.
Right.
I will say, my dad may have found a bottle of vodka in my car in high school. That was probably like the most egregious thing. Yeah.
So
tell us about that night.
I'm gonna ask you right
it wasn't that exciting.
Okay.
Do you have any siblings?
I have an older half sister.
Okay.
So
what's the age gap?
9.5 years.
Okay, 9.5 years. Okay. So she's older?
Yeah.
Okay. Did she go to school and stuff?
Yeah, so she I think graduated from Colonel White,
Okay.
and then she moved out and got her nursing degree at one point and kind of did that.
Okay, good, cool. So now you've got your internship at, you know what I'm saying, at being a public defender.
Mm-hmm.
What is some of the cases that like stick out to you during that part of your, your early beginnings?
So I remember one, and it really hit home because it was from my old neighborhood, and so it wasn't Hudson, it was one street over, and I'm totally blanking on the name, but
it's all good. It's gonna be redacted anyway. If you would have said, you know what I'm saying, we're gonna protect you and the public. Okay.
But it was like right after Thanksgiving.
That marathon over there.
It
was a marathon.
A little run.
I'm gonna remember.
It'll come to us. It'll come to us.
But it was like the day after Thanksgiving, everybody was over, like family was getting together, and there was an older guy who came, he was a little bit too intoxicated, and he started kind of groping on my client's girlfriend. And not like blatantly, but she was uncomfortable.
He's getting handsy.
Yeah, so my client was like, hey man, back off. It didn't. He kind of got shoved outside. They said, kind of go, sober up. And they walked him across the street, sat him down on the porch, and said, sober up.
Go to the other side of that gate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sober up.
Follows you.
Everybody parted ways, but he didn't get up. And then it was like 40 degrees overnight. And so he never woke back up.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and like,
What?
it was one of these things where it was just a perfect storm of awful. Like, there
You
was.
can't say perfect storm. Someone died in the winter.
Right. No, well, it wasn't quite winter. I mean, but it wasn't.
It was 40
just-
degrees. He froze to death.
Well, he didn't freeze, but I think it was hypothermia. Like, I think between the alcohol and the weather being cool enough that it was enough.
So what did they do? Charge your client with murder?
He wasn't charged with. He was charged with assault because he swung at the guy.
Oh.
Because they wouldn't take felony charges. They said they didn't think they could prove it, and I agree. I don't think they could have proven any kind of intention for this person to not still be alive.
Mm-hmm.
So they charged my guy with the assault, and it just always stuck with me because it felt like nobody won in that situation. It wasn't, and charging my client with assault didn't bring the deceased back.
Right.
And it was one of the first kind of jury trials I had, and it still sticks with me because I don't know what the best outcome would have been. And even if we'd gone in and pled guilty, I know the prosecutor was going to ask for jail time, and so I did. There wasn't any offer in the case. It was not a good case.
So
I mean, I'm saying, like, do prosecutors just want to charge people?
Not all of them.
But I'm saying, like, in a situation like that, like, what's the point in charging him with assault if you know the whole situation where a guy was groping a girl? They didn't beat him up or nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just, like, pushed him out the door.
And I think my client, there was testimony that he swung at him. I don't know that he actually punched him, but there was at least one swing, possibly one punch.
Is simply swinging at somebody, is that assault? Even if you don't connect?
Yep.
What is assault?
Assault is an intentional touching or attempt to touch somebody and cause them physical harm.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, if I like swing at you,
Mm-hmm. That's assault.
Is
Is assault like what about like threatening someone?
that's menacing.
That's menacing. I hate the fact that you got anything right, man. You know. Yeah. I'm sorry.
We can get things right. We got some questions to ask you as well.
Assault. Okay, so but what is so just threatening somebody is menacing?
Yeah.
Okay. You're saying that.
What's aggravated menacing?
That's threatening them with serious physical harm versus just like physical harm. So if I say like, you're making me so mad, I want to punch you, that would be menacing. They say, you're making me so mad, I want to shoot you.
Aggravated.
Say I want to shoot you. That's a crime. I want to.
Well, you have to legitimately believe. So, like, if I'm holding a gun,
If I'm
and I
on
say
a
that,
gun, yeah.
or
Like,
you
man,
know I
ain't
have
gonna- just
access to a
wanna shoot
gun,
you.
or I say like, man, I'm gonna go get my car out of the, or my gun out of the car.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
That could
saying that.
What if somebody says, man, if I wasn't on probation, I would, and then threaten somebody with that?
That could be.
See, if you was a prosecutor, would you pick up
No.
how many charges? If I was a prosecutor, I would. If any little thing,
Any little thing.
grand jury.
What?
But you have to also think about, like, not.
You served in the grand jury over that?
Oh yes. I'm keeping these streets safe, man.
What?
I don't got time to have
Over
people-
policing and overcharging is not good for the legal system.
My thing is like if you didn't do anything, you don't got nothing to worry about.
But just put the case on people.
It's not putting a case on it.
Yes, you are. You leave on the person's life.
I'm following the
No,
law.
so let's so, all right, for instance, so let's say like this person works for, let's say, a Uber driver, right?
Mm.
And they're falsely accused or under the suspicion of this, they can be like lose their job pending this investigation. Going
Yeah,
all the way
that's
through.
true.
So to me, like you lose your job, and now what you gonna do now? Because like a lot of times people don't understand is that those little small little petty charges turn into this.
What's the balance? What's the
I-
balance?
Well, and I think that's where, one, the scales,
Mhm.
yes. But I think that's where we've got to get good people in all the positions. So you can have great public defenders, you can have great defense counsel, but if you have prosecutors that are willing to take charges that really
Are
feel-
petty.
yeah, that are petty, then it's always going to be outweighed. If you have people on both sides who are critically looking at the charges that are coming in, that are looking at those complaining witnesses and victims that are coming in, and evaluating when cases should be charged, when can they go to mediation, are these things that we shouldn't even be charging. So when you have good people on both sides doing that, and then you've got good judges, you've got good probation officers, you've got good law enforcement, you have a completely different system
Mm-hmm.
that works to advance and effectuate justice.
What's flawed in our system the most from those different mediums that you just voiced?
I think the inequities in ability to defend oneself.
Mm.
That's one that really has frustrated me. And so, you know, I look at, I'm now in the public defender's office, I'm in a kind of more administrative role where I deal a lot more with budget and with our internal policies. And, you know, I can look at our budget line and I can look at other county agencies' budget lines and see staggering differences and know, you know, what do we have in our expert line to call experts on cases that are higher level cases versus what other, the other side has for their expert line.
What are some of the variants is of us having plenty and them having little, or them having plenty and us having little?
I mean, I think they're usually a couple $1 million ahead of us.
Mm.
So.
Speaking about a couple $1 million and public defenders, right? Let's talk about Puff Daddy, right? Right? He did anywhere called self-love. Do you think it's fair that he's not giving a bond?
So, because it's not a case in front of me, I can't comment on
Okay.
this, unfortunately.
Okay, sure. Okay. If you was his attorney,
If I was his attorney.
how would you defend him and just what you've heard in the?
Again, I don't know. I think, at least as far as like asking for consideration for bond, you know, I think judges oftentimes look at what's the person's connection to the community, what are their financial means, what are their abilities to leave if they were, you know, released. And so I think if I were at this point advocating for bond, you know, is it, do we turn over a passport? Do we say we can do GPS monitoring or an ankle monitor or something like that so that there's some kind of assurances to the court that he will remain present and participate in things and not disappear? But I don't know.
As an attorney, where does your moral compass sit sometimes? Like, so like, let's say you had to defend someone who was, let's say, a dead to right sexual predator, right? And you had to defend them. but your moral compass will be telling you this person needs to do every second in jail. What's the confliction, and how do you bypass that confliction in order to serve your client?
So for me, being a public defender is always about protecting the constitutional rights of everybody. And so until you are convicted, you are entitled to those rights, you are entitled to those protections. And so I make sure that when that, if there's evidence coming in, it was gathered properly, it was stored properly, it was, presented to the jury or to the judge properly. And, if I make sure all of those constitutional protections are enforced and are available and are utilized, and the outcome is still a person is found guilty, then that's still, for me, justice, because we've made sure somebody is protected and had all of the rights they are entitled to, and then the jury or the judge made their call.
Okay.
All of it is tough.
It can be. Yeah.
All of it is tough. I mean, being a prosecutor, being a defense attorney, and a judge. I mean, I think that it's I don't know. When I think about having to actually sentence someone to jail, like, have you? And obviously, you're running for judge, so I know you've considered all of this, but like sentencing someone to 10 years in prison or 15 years in prison, the words come out of your mouth. Love you, bro. Happy birthday, Fred.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, have a great.
Having to do that, like the judge says it in a quick sentence, but then that person actually goes and lives out that sentence. So what is the balance there? Because like a lot of this is all about balance.
Yeah. So I think for me, I have kind of two things, and until I get on the bench and I do it, I don't know exactly how it will go, but I try to keep two things in mind when I've thought about that. The first is I've stood next to the person who got 6 years in prison, and I remember how that made me feel, knowing what I knew about that person, knowing, how we had worked to try and defend his case. And so that sticks with me still. And then the being a parent part sticks with me when I think about this, because at the very least, when you set out expectations and when you set out boundaries for your children, you can say, this is what's expected of you, this is what I need from you. And then ultimately there are consequences if they can't follow through, if they don't meet the expectations. And so it can be really hard as a parent to not want to swoop in and be like, oh, let me fix it for you, oh, let me help you with that. And so, in a court, we've got people who maybe had probation expectations, who had, conditions of, their bond that they were expected to adhere to. And if they don't, meet those expectations, if they can't adhere to that, there have to be consequences. So I look at it in a way that I don't take it lightly, but I also know that it's my duty to have those boundaries and expectations laid out clearly so people know what they're getting from me and they know what to expect from me.
And now we have another factor that is probably in play, which is mental illness, right? I mean, out of 10 people that you defend, how many of them do you think suffer from mental illness in some type of way?
Probably at least 4 to 5 on some level. Yeah. And I mean, I was really involved in the Dayton Regional Mental Health Court for several years before it became a Supreme Court certified court, and then when it became Supreme Court certified, I helped from our office's perspective work on the participant handbook, the expectations, and kind of the rules and regulations for
You helped put the book together.
I helped draft them. Yeah.
Really?
So
Let's talk more about that. What is it? What is that?
So the Dayton Regional Mental Health Court is a court that is set up specifically for people who have an underlying either undiagnosed or untreated mental health diagnosis.
Right.
And so they've ended up in criminal court because they've allegedly committed some kind of crime. Sometimes, a lot of times, it was domestic violence. So it's like an argument between a loved one, between a family member. But things, even things like theft and assault were cases that we dealt with. And so they would go through a mental health evaluation. They would be, it would be confirmed that they had a specific diagnosis that fell into the access to diagnosis. And if they wanted to join the program, it was a 2-year program. It was an intensive probation program. The first, I think, 6 months, they would come to court every 2 weeks. And I would be there with them. They'd meet the judge, the prosecutor, public defender, and their probation officer would all be there. They would get a status update. We'd talk about how they were doing. Once they graduate from phase 1 to phase 2, they might come every 4 to 6 months, or 4 to 6 weeks, I'm sorry. And so you would really see from, somebody really struggling on day 1 to when they graduate 2 years later, this complete 180. And, people had skills, they had like support structures in place so that if something like that, this challenge came up in the future, they had better coping skills to not end up in the criminal system again.
How much of crime you think is based strictly in poverty? Like, we gotta do a pie of it, like 100%, 50%. What would be how much of poverty plays into the judicial system?
I think it's gotta be at least like 65.
Yes,
It's a lot.
80. I go 82.
I mean, if you look at like housing, the number of cases we see just because somebody's like in an abandoned house because they don't have anywhere else to go, or sitting in the library, trespass from the library because they don't have anywhere else to go, or trespass from the RTA hub. So I mean, I think if you address and mental illness is a big role in that too, because if you have somebody who just goes off their meds or goes out of treatment for even a couple weeks, that can really, dive bomb where they're at.
So, like another like caveat to that is driving without a license, right? Like a lot of times people are under this insurmountable bills because of the fact of you keep getting caught.
Reinstatement fees.
Yeah.
And then it's more of the same. Yeah.
Is that taxing more on the poor?
Yes. Absolutely, because it's this vicious cycle where you get caught driving without insurance once, and then you get a suspension, and you have to get this high risk insurance, which is twice as much as any other insurance policy. And the first time you get a non-compliance suspension, it's like $175. The next one's $350. The next one's $625 or something, and it just stacks and stacks.
So, what is the solution to fix it?
So. I don't think I think it's okay to have some sort of either reinstatement fee. I think $175 for the very first offense is absurdly expensive.
Plus getting the insurance. I mean, plus the insurance.
Yeah. And so plus because
that's all those impound.
Those reinstatement
They
fees.
get your car out of impound. Yes.
The court fees and then your impound fees, which accrue every single day.
Then you gotta actually serve out the suspension, because don't they give it a certain period of time, like 3 months
The
or?
first one, now they've changed it. So if you get that high risk insurance, your suspension ends the day you get that insurance. But after that, it's a year and then 2 years.
See,
Right.
that's a tough one.
Right.
Shout out to the judges.
Suspended for a year.
I don't know who came up with this, but shout out to the judge that was like, you know what? If you come back to court and you're current, I will drop this case. That is like the saving grace sometimes.
Right.
And I think that's been a shift because I don't think for a long time, at least when I started, that was not really what was going on.
Right.
It was in a couple courts, but I think that is much more widespread now, and prosecutors even recognize it's going to be better for everybody if we get people valid. Because if we get them valid, maybe we get $100 in court costs if they plead guilty, but if we get them valid, then they are actually able to participate in society, get to their jobs, keep their jobs, and do what they need to do.
It shouldn't be the ultimate.
Most crimes are based on what? We got money,
Mental health.
well, probably relationships.
But a lot of that
Or-
be poverty too, man.
I mean, it is, but it's just saying, like, it's
Trauma bond
money,
is a thing.
relationships. What's another one?
Trauma
Trauma,
and drug use.
trauma, and drug
Yeah,
use.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. And what's the poverty is the
Poverty
I mean,
is
that can go through.
is
all
here
of
to
them.
all.
poverty goes through all of them. You're in poverty, so you want to use some drugs to forget about it. You in love, so I mean, I'm just trying to figure out, like, how do we stop crime though? Like, because America, well, what I would say is that
When you get in trouble, give
it
them money.
seems like, and I could be, it seems like I mean, I could be wrong, but from what I've heard is like America has more prisons than other countries. We have a higher crime rate than other countries. True or no?
That I don't know. I haven't
Okay.
done research on that.
Right. But it seems like it's less.
We in the top. Yeah, we in the top of both.
Okay, so
Prisons and anybody else. That
That is true.
okay, so with that being said, is it because these other countries have more severe punishment when somebody actually commits a crime,
Uh-oh.
or they have like citizens who just aren't interested in committing crimes because of what?
Well, I think if you compare us to other countries, how many other countries have like universal health care for everybody, or have different? Like, I think of just about parental leave for new parents, and you really have to struggle depending on the company you work for. That may mean you can take 2 weeks off when you have a baby, or you can take 12 weeks off when you have a baby.
2 weeks off with a baby is wild.
Right.
Yeah, that ain't-
But
I
I mean,
think
there are
we need
people
more
who go back
time.
to work because they don't have a choice. They don't have paid leave. They don't have an option. And it's, you go back to work or you don't have a job.
Yeah.
I know it ain't right, but I'm judging you as a company if you do that. I'm judging you personally. I'm not judging with a gavel. I'm judging with a tomahawk.
Well, I mean,
Look,
I am saying though.
as a business
Listen,
owner,
well, as a business owner, and I'm not saying I would do this. I would try to support one of the young ladies that work here if they was having a baby. I would like to, keep their job for them, while
how many weeks? That's
while
what
they right,
How many-
right.
how many
So what I'm saying is, like, this business does still have to operate, right? And you do need to slide somebody into the role that they were playing.
Right.
Okay. So when they come back off of maternity leave,
How many weeks?
do you have enough money to pay an extra employee?
Right.
How many weeks you give them?
How many weeks would I give them?
Yeah. Right now, if Callie was pregnant right now, how many weeks you giving Callie off?
I mean, I think the standard is 6 weeks off.
6 weeks off. What you doing?
That
Are you doing
is
6 weeks?
huh?
I said 6 weeks is the low.
The minimum. That's the minimum.
Yeah.
What does a company do? I'm asking. I don't know. I'm just asking. I'm talking a mom and pop business, a small business that's operating with 5 employees. Everybody there is crucial
Yeah.
to this operation.
Yeah.
The person that answers the phones,
Yeah.
they have a child, and I'm not saying. I mean, it's not ethical. If you could keep them there or preserve their spot, yes.
You would have her breastfeeding and answering phones still?
No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I love on my employees, like, bro, like everybody that works here is like they get over on me, if anything, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm the one that holds the bag at the end of the day.
But I think we live in this capitalist society where it's like, if you're not working, you are not valuable.
Right.
And, and it puts small businesses in a position of, if we aren't constantly scrambling to, break even,
I got you.
you're falling behind.
So how about if one of your male employees working here and his girl got pregnant, you give him time to be with the, you know what I'm saying? Like,
That is a great question.
Did he get medical leave?
I don't think so.
Maternity leave? No.
I mean, you know, you can be there when the baby is born, okay?
Put it back in the basement.
But it's soon. Okay, as soon as the baby is born, I want you back here. I mean, but you know what? I don't think that that's right though. Should the man? Do you think that the man should get time off for maternity leave?
So I will say,
The father.
my husband he was home for like 3 to 4 weeks.
Ooh, really? See, he has a good business.
Well,
I mean,
his job, he was able to take. He had vacation time accrued, and he'd saved it, and they knew what he was planning to do. So
okay.
I mean, like that was something, and there was somebody else who could cover his duties while he was
right.
So,
But does he work at a what kind of company? Is it a big business or a small
So he
business?
was at an art gallery when our 7-year-old was born, and so he was like the gallery manager. So somebody like the executive director kind of did things, and the other people stepped in and kind of split up his roles. And I don't remember where. Oh, he works at like a warehouse now. It's a pretty small business.
But he was still able to get that
He
time
was
off.
still able to.
Yeah, I mean, and then I know that people make things happen, man. You know, like honestly, like here yesterday, I worked by myself. You know, it was a lot, and we had a lot of people coming in here, but I figured out a way to handle it. So all I'm saying is, when you're put in a position, all you can do is handle it the best way that you can. So
one last question, right? Now, what if you get somebody to work here like Brave Nate?
so crazy.
Solicitor Brave Nate or no? Right? What if he like continues to have babies, like 10 plus kids?
I hear what you're saying.
You
might say
it's gonna be a point where you gonna say, "Hey,
he needs the job more at that point." So should you let him go? It's very tough to let somebody go when they got a family to support. So no, I would do everything that I could in order to, support my employees. And you have to do that as a business. You got to do what you got to do. But they also kind of gotta understand where you're at as a company. Like it goes both ways. And so.
And I think it doesn't have to be cookie cutter for anybody. I think
Right.
You can figure out what is it somebody working part time? Is it they come in early and do something? So there's ways around it. It doesn't just have to be cut or dry one thing.
Yeah,
so
but
we had Ahaba on the hot seat. It's time to get her on the hot seat, bro. We gotta get to those questions, man. We gotta answer trivia questions.
would you like to play a game of trivia?
Okay.
Here we go.
Let's go.
All right.
These are tough.
This is really good.
Really, really tough questions.
And this is the first time we actually ever did this.
You're the first.
Okay, here we go. Which amendment to the U.S. Constitution
Okay.
guarantees the right to a fair trial? Is it A, the First Amendment, B, the Fifth Amendment, C, the Sixth Amendment, or D, the 10th Amendment?
I think it's 6.
Ooh!
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes! We got one!
Thank you.
We got
Thank you
one.
for getting that right. Okay, here we go. What is the term used?
you in the section.
What is the term used for a judge's decision to set aside a jury's verdict?
Okay.
A mistrial,
Mm.
habeas corpus, summary judgment, judgment notwithstanding the verdict.
Judgment notwithstanding the verdict.
It's
Correct.
Another one. He did count in this video.
Correct.
Another one. All
Okay.
right.
In which TV courtroom drama does Judge Judith Scheinlin preside?
Uh-oh.
Law and Order, Night Court, Judge Judy, or the People's Court? Which TV courtroom does Judge Judith Scheinlin preside?
I think it's Judge Judy.
Judge Judy.
I was like, wait a minute.
Is she married to the guy who used to do People's Court?
I'm not
Ooh, that's a
sure.
good question.
Who? The People's
It
Court?
was Wapner.
Judge Wapner. Is she married to Judge Wapner?
Maybe not.
Maybe
Maybe I made that up.
Judge Wapner.
Because then
That's
I thought
sweet.
she was on it for a minute, but maybe not.
Right.
People's Court.
Judge Wapner. Judge Wapner got real mean. He wasn't as mean at first, but then he turned the corner.
He did get grumpy.
Yeah, he was he needed better ratings or something where he like literally turned up. Okay.
No, Judge Judy is not married.
No, I don't know.
Judge Walker.
Okay.
Okay. How many justices currently serve on the United States Supreme Court? A, 7,
Mhm.
B, 9,
Mhm.
C, 11,
Mhm.
or D, 13?
9.
Ding, 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 ding.
How many used to serve on the Supreme Court?
That's not part of it. That's not part of
I mean,
it.
it's been
That's not part of
as
this.
long
Too.
as I was paying attention.
There it is. Okay. Say less.
But it might have been less than that before.
Okay.
Ding, 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 she won that one.
Which of the following is a common phrase judges use to instruct the jury?
My favorite part.
Order in the court, case closed, you can't handle the truth, or the jury will disregard that last remark.
The jury will disregard that last remark.
Oh my
You
God.
got a 100% on this trivia quiz. Yes!
Awesome.
That is so cool.
That makes me happy.
I know. I am proud of you. See, you know what? You are ready to be a judge in my eyes.
Yeah.
You know?
So speaking of which, have you noticed any of these other trials going on? Like the Young Thug trial, have you followed that?
I have.
Okay. So I have been watching it diligently, and there have been so many different things that like the prosecutor is doing in this case, where it was categorized as hiding the ball to the last minute. If you were a judge, right, in this pretend world that you're not, right, pretend world, would you have thrown this case out by now?
So I don't know. Here's what I would say. As a judge, I would expect that when people are coming to our pretrial hearings, our motion hearings, that they have done their due diligence in getting the information to each side. So if I'm defense counsel and I need to make sure I get something to the prosecutor before so it can be introduced, that I've done that in a timely manner. Same with the prosecutor. And that's how I show up to court, and I expect, and that's how, the prosecutors that I interact with, they know they're going to get that from me. I know I can get that from them. So my expectation is that regardless of what side you're on, regardless of whose office you're coming from, I expect you to be prepared. I expect you to have your information and be ready. If if we need a continuance, if we need to reset, we can do that with the understanding that, okay, we've had our chance. Let's make sure everything is clean from here on out.
What's the wackiest thing you've seen in litigation before? I mean, it could be from personal experience, or maybe you've heard through, water cooler talk, right? Like somebody suing somebody over someone stealing their dog. What is the wackiest kind of case you've ever heard of?
I mean, it's not very wacky, but like a neighborhood dispute over a retaining wall that led to like criminal charges being filed. Like it just is absurd.
Over a wall?
Over a wall. So like a rock fell out of the retaining wall, and so one neighbor is saying that this retaining wall is bad, and then the rock, then he's like, I'm gonna take this rock back to you, and it's
Pick up your rock, man.
right. So like it's just the weirdest.
You in my yard?
It's just silly, and you think like, how did we get here? How is this how we're using our legal system? But
Do you think we could stop crime tremendously by bringing back duels, where two people just meet up and they just duel it out?
I don't know. I don't know.
That feels... well, that might not work, but I know what may.
Okay.
This is in the sentencing phase.
Okay, so you've already been tried.
Public punishment has a place in a society.
In what way? How are we?
What was the thing, caning? Do you remember that? The guy from Dayton actually went to Bangladesh and got caught like doing something that was, and they caned him.
Right. I don't.
Is that barbaric? Is that too barbaric?
I feel like that's a
You ask somebody who never got an ass whooping. Sending somebody to cane you never had a butt whooping is wild, bro.
But do you think that people will think a little harder before they do something if they have to go through something that's like immediate, swift, severe, and like obviously painful?
Yeah, but if you have that immediacy, then who's making the determination like what when you say immediacy, is it like I've done something wrong and now the next day I'm getting caned, or is it just because then who's making that quick decision?
Ahava.
Me. Like, you did that? Caught red-handed. Is this the video? Right here, the courthouse square. Public caning. I mean, I don't know if it needs to be that severe, but I would like,
What?
You would like an aspect of that?
yeah, I would like an aspect of that. That's a damn, an aspect of that. Nah, seriously though, like,
You pay respect to the
people need to just have a greater fear for consequence. Like we were saying earlier when we was talking about, like when we are talking about religion and what's the motivating factor in order to be good. Is it reward or is it discipline? Is it the punishment? And the way that the Bible says it, it seems like to me they lean a lot more on the punishment aspect of keeping order.
I agree.
I don't know. I feel like I think if we can create, I feel like our community is so fractured. It feels a lot like unless I'm looking out for myself, nobody else will. And so if we can get back to a place where you feel this connection with your community, that for me feels like it would be more of a motivator to make sure you're doing the right things and staying on the right side of things than the fear of,
Being caned.
yeah.
All right, so let's talk some.
Being caned is scary. So.
Being caned is very scary. I mean, it definitely is.
And it
And,
might get people's attention. I don't know that I'm on board.
I was so scared my mama would have switched, let alone a cane.
yeah.
So let's talk politics, right? What makes you different from the person that you're running against?
So I've spent my entire career in Montgomery County. I've been with the Public Defender's Office since 2011. I've worked as a trial attorney through all the misdemeanor courts, through common pleas court, and my life has been in Montgomery County. And aside from practicing law, I've done things like been on the House of Red Board. I'm currently on the Dayton Society Natural History Board. I've been involved with Rainbow Elder Care and their board. And so pouring back into the community, doing things for the community, being involved in the community is something, and it's been here in Dayton and Montgomery County that I've been doing those things.
And how do those different flavoring of your palate make you a better judge that like you could think of? Like, why would that make you a better judge?
Well, I think working in the courts that I've worked in, I get to see what is important to the people in human rights. What is law enforcement seeing? What is the judge seeing? What's the prosecutor seeing? Versus what's going on in Miamisburg, and what are their priorities, and what do they see as concerning? And so having that experience from all around the county, working with judges, working with prosecutors, I think that puts me and positions me in a really good place to know what do we need, what are we looking for, and how from the bench can I help further and advance justice and better our community.
I think a better way to like bring the community together, we have to get the family structure together. Like, I think just family in general will, I think it gives people just a better opportunity to have that balance in life. They'll get both sides, the nurturing and the discipline, in their upbringing. So is there anything that the courts could do, or what could maybe the government do in order to like help families stay together? Can we incentivize family?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how you incentivize family. I think if we look at, especially in sentencing phases, if we look at ways that we can support people while holding them accountable so that we are not pulling them out of their families or separating them from families, and giving them supports to try and do better,
Mhm.
then at the very least we are not furthering disrupting family.
Right.
And that is a really good start.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I don't know how we incentivize kind of keeping families together.
Right. Yeah, I think that that would be. I think that it shows, and I think that that may be a part of what we see in America. Just with because I think that America has a lot of great things about it. I'm not the person to sit here and bash America, but there is a bit of moral decay happening to a certain extent, and then I think that that's kind of like breaking down with the family structure. So even with Dayton public schools, you know, keeping that family together and sending your child to school from just like a better place, I think that it would help your child focus a little more in school and then become a more productive citizen. You know, so I don't know. Maybe it's just something to think
And
about.
I think even education for parents, because I look at, so I have a
Right.
22-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And I look at the parent that I was with my 22-year-old,
Mhm.
and the parent that I am now with my 7-year-old.
Right.
And I am a completely different person because
Right.
I know so much more.
Mhm.
And I am better equipped to, like, hey, I have to manage my emotions first before
Right.
I can help the 7-year-old manage their emotions.
Mhm.
And so, you know, but that's not something I knew with my oldest, and that, you know, and so I look back now and I think, how could I have worked with her or managed things in a different way that would have been supportive to her, supportive to me, but how, you know, can we get that knowledge to everybody? And so you do have an ability to be supportive and set boundaries in a way that are realistic for the age of the child, the development of the child, and
Mhm.
kind of better sustain them, and also not just wear you out as pain.
Right. Right. And people have to want to do it themselves too. Like you can't make anybody do it. But you almost need to start teaching family to kids in school so they'll understand the plan before they actually are put in a family situation. Because a lot of times, like, you have children, like I had my first son when I was 18 years old. You know, and even though that I was a father, just, you know, I wasn't stable enough to be having a
You were
child.
still a kid.
Exactly. But the thing, like, if we were learning more about the inevitable when we were in school, that, hey, listen, this family stuff happens, it happens quick, it happens unexpectedly. I mean, I think they teach more about, like, sexually transmitted diseases in school more than they teach about the possibility of becoming a parent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think we might need to be switching the conversation a little bit more about saying, you know, it's probably more likely you're going to get somebody pregnant or become pregnant than even probably catching the disease. I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems like it should definitely be in the conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but I also think if you, at whatever point you can get to parents to try and help them navigate how they regulate their own emotions to help their children, then they're modeling that for their kids. So their kids are going to see that coming up too. And then they've seen, okay, this is how the adult interacts with the kid when this is happening. And they have learned those coping skills. So, I mean, I think if you can teach it to the people in the homes, that's good. If you could teach it in schools so the kids are learning that too. Because my 7-year-old now has the language to say, like, I'm really angry right now. And I said, okay, do you need time alone? Do you want a hug?
Yeah.
And he can tell me that. And so that's a big difference from just like screaming or like swinging his feet because he can't explain what he's feeling.
What makes a good judge? What's the characters of a good judge?
I think you've got to have even temperament. You know, I'm not a person who gets super excited or super reactive to things for the most part. I'm going to take it in. I'm going to think about it before I respond.
Like, yay, $1 million.
Well, no,
I'm just
really
kidding.
not. I might react to that.
Right.
That's cool. But no, I've had clients who yell at me and scream at me and tell me I'm like the worst person.
Oh, wow.
And that's
But all right, I had that deal planned out now.
well,
You
but
get in a bitch trial.
no, but I mean,
That's funny.
they're upset about, they're in the court system. It's a distressing situation,
is.
and so remembering that oftentimes when people are coming into court, it is not for a good reason, regardless of what side you're on, regardless of what you're there for. It can be stressful, it can be sad, it can be something that makes you angry, and so respecting that, this person is having feelings about the situation that they're in, not about me. I'm here and I'm kind of the person in front of them, and so they're lashing out at me, but it's not about me, it's about this court. And so I'm able to kind of step back from that and say, this is an unfortunate situation. I still have to do my job, but I'm not going to punish you for feeling what you're feeling.
Did you have, so we had, it's the general election, and before that is what, the primary?
Yep.
Did you have to go through a primary?
So I was in the primary, but I was unopposed.
Okay.
So I was the only name on my side.
How did it feel to like go to the primary and cast a vote for yourself?
It was really exciting.
Yeah.
I woke up today, early voting started today, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're here. Like,
Right.
People can come and vote for me, and I got to go down to the Board of Elections for a little while, and people walked out and were like, I voted for you.
Really?
Oh, that's
Yeah,
hard.
it was really exciting.
That is real cool.
So it still feels a little bit unbelievable, but it's also really exciting.
And are you enjoying the process of campaigning?
Yeah, it's really been great. I've gotten to talk to just so many different people, go to so many different communities, and hear from people, and also talk about why I'm excited about this. And I really like that.
What is an issue that you kind of see like a commonality that people are asking you about, something that they might want changed, or something that
I think, how do we address mental health? That's been a pretty consistent theme across a lot of communities, because they see that it's prevalent. They see that for a lot of people it is untreated, and so how do we help them? What needs do we have to connect them with resources?
Yeah, earlier you talked about people who are undiagnosed, but they still get into this criminal justice system. So does each defendant or person that it's that's being charged with something, each person have a mental health evaluation?
So only if they are applying to be in that Dayton Regional Mental Health Court. So if it's, and sometimes that can be a really uncomfortable conversation to have, to say,
It's your client.
yeah, it's your client. This is somebody who I've never met before. And to say, have you ever been diagnosed with a mental health diagnosis? And for some people, that can feel really uncomfortable.
Right.
Like, no, why would you even ask me that?
Right.
And say, that's okay. I've seen, based on this case, it just seems like this is not something that maybe.
It's kind of insulting. It could be.
Right, it could be. And,
Right.
I ain't crazy.
Exactly.
I know you crazy.
Right. And
That is crazy.
I don't want my clients, that can put up a barrier between me and my clients. And if I still have to advocate for that. And so if they are absolutely adamant, this is not something that I even want to talk about.
Like that one guy who with the court, and he ran and jumped and tried to get the judge. He clearly have mental health issues, right? Like he don't need no diagnosis. You see that video of the one guy who jumped 20 feet in the air?
Yeah, I seen it. He cleared the desk.
Yeah. That's clearly mental health.
Yeah. Or is it?
Really good.
No, you should be able to control yourself in that instance.
See, that's one thing that I've always thought about. When people commit some of these heinous crimes, right? Is it like they couldn't be in their right mind to do this? So are they automatically insane? Or it's just you can't give everybody that defense?
I don't realize what could be something where you would just lose control. I don't know.
For example,
I've
I've heard a case of like a woman drowning her kids in the bathtub.
Mm.
Can that person be charged with anything else but like insane? I mean, is that would somebody in their right mind do something like that?
I suppose it's possible. I think, and from a defense perspective, I think you want to explore all of those potential opportunities. And, I think about it too from the perspective of, even if this person isn't considered maybe not competent or, not restorable, it might give you insight into them for sentencing, or insight into who this person is, that how did we get to this point. And so I think sometimes that's the way you can try to convince your clients that maybe this evaluation would help, because you can say, I don't know you, this feels like a really surprising choice of actions given your prior record or given your prior history. I think this evaluation might give me more insight into what was going on that day, what was going on when this happened, and that can help us kind of craft where we go from here. And sometimes that's an easier way to get that evaluation done and to see. And then you can come back to the client. You can say, look, they talked about this with you, or you talked about this. Where do we go from here?
Is it possible for somebody to actually have some type of mental illness, but it doesn't show up in the evaluation? Or the evaluations are pretty accurate?
I think, the evaluations are done by humans, so there's always room for error.
And discretion, it's like the person is judging whether they feel like this.
Yeah, and it depends on the day. Because, my grandmother had dementia before she passed away and had Alzheimer's, and you might catch her at 7 a.m., and she was my normal grandma, and by 2 p.m., she didn't know who I was or who my daughter was.
Right.
So, I think mental health works kind of the same way.
Yeah.
You may be having a really lucid, perfectly kind of normal conversation, and then a minute or two later, you're talking to the wall.
So my bad. I was just gonna say, like, that happens with just like other parts of life. Like, for example, your car might be having a problem. As soon as you take it to the mechanic, it's not making a noise anymore.
Yeah.
But then when you leave, there it is. You're like, oh man. So same thing with mental health. Like, you have to be having an episode for you to be evaluated on that, on like your mental illness.
Well, and I think the evaluations are tailored in such a way that they can ask questions that might, even if you're not in the midst of an episode, might be able to tap into what's going on.
I have a two-part question. So, how much leeway does the judge have, like, when they have things that are like mandatory, like a mandatory gun spec, and for instance, so like they'll have certain levels of, for instance, if this person committed a crime for the very first time, it's this. You've done multiple times. You've been. How much variance does the judge have when, let's say, a career criminal is just having a mental episode at this point? Are you still getting the max like that, or are you gonna have to go with?
It's always going to depend on kind of the facts of each individual case. So you just got to look at what's the person's criminal history, what is the current issue or activity that they engaged in, what information do you have about their mental state at that point, and so you just got to weigh it. All of those factors kind of play a role in it. So you can't just look at one of them and make a decision. And Ohio has sentencing guidelines, but there's nothing other than like mandatory sentences for specific types of crimes. You've got a little more leeway to work with.
Okay. I think I got one more question. So, in the sentencing of juveniles compared to adults, right? We do see that like there are like a disparaging numbers of, let's say, black kids being sentenced for as a juvenile being tried as an adult.
Yeah.
What are some of the factors you think are the reason why that will be prevalent more in blacks more than other groups of people?
I think unfortunately it seems as if there's this expectation, or that's not the right word. We've placed on young black boys this idea that they are already grown. We create them as more mature than they are. And so when they engage in these types of activities, we assume a maturity and impose a maturity on them, that then they are treated as adults, when in fact they are not, and their brains are not fully developed, and their impulse control is not fully developed, and they don't understand the immediacy of the consequences of the choices they're making. So
Right.
I don't have a great answer for that one.
No, that was a great answer. I think that was a real answer. And from what I've been hearing from Dr. Huggins is that's kind of like the other part of that is when black women are having children and then they're not getting, they think that they have a higher pain tolerance. So a lot of the stuff that they're asking to be treated for is getting ignored or brushed off. So, right, we have all of these different type of ideas about melanated people and like what they can take, how much their pain tolerance, and oh, he knew what he was doing. But then on the other hand, you looked at as like he's still a boy. You know, you calling a grown man a boy, right? But yet you're saying that they're mature then at an early age when they make bad decisions. So it's kind of like you can't have it both ways. But I think that was a great answer. And I think that that's the real reason why we're seeing these young kids get tried as adults. You know, I don't know. When are you capable of making decisions?
Yesterday for me. Just got it yesterday. Just yesterday.
Yeah, it's a hard one though. But these are all the things that as a judge you have to use discretion on to try to figure these things out. Who makes the choice to charge a child as an adult? Is that a juvenile court judge, or would that be a prosecutor or who?
So I think the prosecutor can file a motion for it's called like a bind over, and then the juvenile judge can make a ruling on whether or not they will grant the case to be transferred over.
Right.
Well, and then I think that's one thing people are really focusing on now is there is a lot of researchers who are, there's a woman named Chris Jennings who has done a lot of studies on how juveniles respond and black and brown communities, how they respond to law enforcement. And the things that we think of when we look at, you know, police reports like furtive movements, or they you know, hunched their body away from me, or they averted their eyes. They're normal responses, especially when you take into consideration experiences of cultures with law enforcement and policing in their communities.
Right.
And so now you have data saying this is not indicative of criminal behavior. This is indicative of normal societal responses to what's happening. And we cannot criminalize somebody's
their mental state.
Their emotional response to the
Their
situation.
emotion, exactly.
And then lastly, like their culture. Like it's in the culture. It's baked in how we deal with certain things. Now, mind you, I'm a person where I've been pulled over. I've had times where I've never had a negative police interaction, right? But I'm also giving him that respect to start. I'm not saying that's across the board, so it's not going to work. But my judgment that's going to be at least me. Like my dad had that talk with me. Right, and that is something that I'm blessed to say that I had an actual dad that took the time to have that talk with me. If you know what that talk means, then maybe you need to have that talk with somebody, because that talk probably saved my life. Basically, seeing how I have friends who were killed by the police, right? Literally, and it's based off them not having that talk, and it's not a whole thing of you cowering, neither are you, but it's just the fact of you having your day in court is so important. I'm telling, like, to my young boys out there who are, maybe you're the kill boys or whatever you're doing, have your day in court, right? You do not have to fight right there. You cannot be tried and convicted right there in that traffic stop. Go to jail. Get a public defender. There's some good ones out there, right? Who literally are fighting for you, right? We have multiple ones on here who went from there to jumping on the bench. Have your day in court. Do not argue with that person during that time, right? That's all I can say to y'all, because again, I had to live to get the perspective. But some of y'all don't get the chance to even get to this refined age to have that discernment.
How does wisdom play a part in being a judge?
I think it's really important. I think your life experience, your ability to recognize that people who didn't make the same choices as you aren't better or less than. they just made different choices. And so it's the ability to step back and say, well, I wouldn't have, instead of saying, I wouldn't have done that, saying they made this choice based upon the life experience that they were having at that time. And you know, there are still consequences to choices, there are still consequences to actions. And my view of that is not relevant. It's how do I effectuate justice given the circumstances.
What is wisdom to you?
A little bit. I think it's the ability to know that we are always still learning, and we can always continue to learn and improve and aspire to be better. So, you know, I may make a decision that I think, you know, like when I talked about parenting my 22-year-old, you know, at the time I thought this is what is the best I can be doing for her. And looking back now, I have different tools, I have new methods, and so I can do different things. It doesn't necessarily mean that what I did then was bad, and I can continue to do better now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Definitely.
so now we need to talk to that voter that's sitting on his couch eating potato chips right now, watching. He's saying, "Why should I vote for you?" Can you tell them right in the camera, so if you're at home, why should they vote for you in early election? Right? Don't wait till the day of. Okay.
Yes, you can go tomorrow.
Yeah,
Go
we can
tomorrow.
vote right now.
Right? Don't get stuck at the part where they say, "Oh, well, you hit the wrong one." No, there's only one right now.
Down at the
There's only one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't be that person. So what would you say to that person that's sitting there on the fence? Oh, he literally sitting on the gate and 5
Five
votes.
votes.
He's on the fence.
All right.
And why should he vote for you?
I'm so excited about this opportunity. I think I will be an excellent representative for everybody on the bench. I know that if you walk into my courtroom, I'm going to make sure your voice is heard, regardless of what side you're on. I'm going to hear everything you have to say, hear all of the facts in the case. I'm going to make the best decision that I can based upon the evidence that I have. I don't want anybody to feel like they don't have a fair shot or a fair shake when they walk into court. And so I will respect everybody who comes into my court and be fair and equitable and show empathy to whoever you are.
Here we go. Here we go. So how can they vote for you? I mean, like, how can they find you online? How can they click? How can they reshare? How can they follow you?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, Julia Mauk for Judge. I have a website, www.juliamaukforjudge.com. And you can vote early down at the admin building, administration building on 3rd and I think it's on 3rd Street.
And they validate your parking, so you can go out here and they validate your parking.
Yeah, you don't
Every place to vote.
You don't even have to get a ticket to vote. All the gates are open right now. So first day's over, it'll probably be a little bit calmer the rest of the week, but up until November 4th, I don't think early voting is open on November 4th. And then election day is November 5th, so you gotta go to your local polling place.
For sure. All right, anything else?
No, I'm really impressed though.
Well, thank you.
I'm really impressed. I appreciate the fact that you came and just sat down with us and chopped it up. You know, every time somebody that is a professional comes here, man, I really love it. I always think like, dang, you guys really came here to do an interview. But I appreciate your stance and just how you think about things. Yep, and I like your temperament. And I don't know, I like your vibe as a judge. We need judges that aren't overly aggressive. You don't seem too passive. You don't seem, either way, you seem right there in the middle. And I think that it illustrates the scale, the balance that you need in order to be a good judge, you know.
I hope so.
Definitely.
And I find it ironic, like you going from being a Marine, what was it called?
Marine scientist.
A Marine scientist to riding the ship of the law system.
Okay.
It all comes full circle.
There you go.
All right, you guys, man.
Like,
Julia
share,
Mauk for
subscribe.
Judge, right?
Julia Mauk for Judge.
There it is. All right. Love everybody. We'll see y'all next time.
Thank you.